Hello and welcome back to the Horse Racing Network with me, Izzy Phillips, and I'm joined by Jack Milner from Quiff, and we're going to take you through all of the festive racing this December. We've got so much to go through. We're going to have a look at Kempton, we're going to go to Chepstow and that Leopardstown Christmas Festival as well. Are you looking forward to it all, Jack?
Yeah, do you know what? I was there in a former guise. I was at the King George myself in 2016 and 2017. I remember getting an early flight from Dublin, I think 7 a.m. Really busy flight over to London. And the year Thistlecrack won, I think he was a novice as well at the time. I was keen to take him on. I'm pretty sure Kukai finished second. I couldn't believe the ease of how he won the race. The year after was a bit more. Mike Bite was a bit more roguish, and I was adamant he'd win the Gold Cup. He obviously finished second to Native River a few months later. But yeah, great memories. And for me, watching the race as a kid, Kauto Star was one of the horses who got me really into jump racing. I remember Boxing Day would be watching the racing with my dad and just thinking this. He'd always call it the beautiful horse. The beautiful horse Kauto Star was just one of those like horses that kind of stick with you over the festive period. So great memories of racing this time of the year, and yeah, we're looking forward to Kempton this year. What about you, Izzy?
I'm the same, and I actually hold those very same memories about Kauto Star. I remember me and my granddad fancied Kauto Star for his fifth King George, and my
Okay.
dad fancied Long Run. And I remember when he just started turning the screw on the bend, and it was all over. You knew it was all over already. And the way he used to win those King Georges was just incredible. And it's very fitting, really, that the first race we're going to start with is actually that Kauto Star Chase at Kempton. It makes sense that he's got a name in his honour because he deserves it, as well as the statue that he's got
Of
at the
course.
end of the parade ring as well. But it is a grade one. It is held over 3 mile. It was actually originally called the Felton before it became the Kauto Star in 2013. It's been run by some pretty interesting horses in recent years. David Pipes had a couple of good winners with Dynast and Grand Cru, but we've got some quite exciting horses going this year. Mullins has sent one over with Kitzbühel. You've also got Wendigo in there, which I'm going to try and be impartial about for the next few minutes. You've also got Salva in here, Blue King Doro, Crest of Fortune, and Thomas More. Now, although it is a relatively small field, I think this looks quite an exciting race. Where does your eye go here, Jack?
I mean, like most races over Christmas, right? Your eyes drawn to a certain WP Mullins of Clisutton, and I can't really pronounce his name, but Kitzbühel. Pretty sure I'm butchering that. He's a very worthy favourite. He was sent over for the Grade One Liverpool Hurdle at the Aintree Festival back in the spring. He was well beaten that day. I think he went 130. He just never really looked to beat the races. He's clearly held in some regard because he's sent off favourite again for the Grade Two Hurdle at Bet365 jumps finale. I like the way he jumped on debut, one over 2.5 at Punchestown about 4 or 5 weeks ago. It's just I always look to try to get novice chasers, favourites in novice chasers beat because I think you're so much more vulnerable, especially having such a limited run over the larger obstacles. So the money's also respected, but it's really hard to not be impressed by what Salva did at Sandown. This is a Paul Alster selection as well. He bolted up. It's his first start over 3 miles a few weeks ago at Sandown by 12 lengths. He jumped really, really well when landing the Esher Novices Chase, a Grade 2 under Caelan Quinn. Yeah, just it was the way he jumped, and again, the conditions will suit right-handed. 3 miles, a little bit of juice in the ground, not too soft. Salva for me, I think he did a little bit 11-4 bout with William Hill. Given the way he jumped and he's got a bit more experience over his fences, it's him for me. But yeah, fantastic race, and it should really set the tone for the afternoon.
Absolutely. I'm really hoping that it's going to set off our day in particular at home quite nicely. So I'll be at Dad's for Boxing Day, and we both have shares in Wendigo.
Oh,
He's
wow.
just such a strapping horse. He's absolutely huge. When you see him, he's built for chasing. Obviously, they went to the hurdle race at Cheltenham with him, but I think it's always looked like he was going to be a staying chaser, and I'm so excited. Jamie Snowden is on an incredible strike rate at the moment, as is Gavin Sheehan in his own right, not only for the rides he has for Jamie Snowden, but a couple of other rides that he's had as well. He's just riding out of his skin. And feel like Kitzbühel is beatable. I feel like there's a chink in his armour. If you're looking at Mullins, I understand, he doesn't send them over for a day out. He's an absolute titan of the industry. But actually, at the moment, unusually for him, he's on an incredibly low strike rate. He's only had 3 winners out of 33, which is very unusual. And I'm just wondering whether this can be Wendigo's time to catch it right. Like, I feel everything is falling right. He'll have no issues with the ground. I think Kempton as a track will suit him. And I'm really, really excited to see him go, not only because I have the share, but genuinely because I think this is his sort of race. I know as an ownership, we're all very, very excited to see what he's going to do. This has been the target. This has been on the cards for a while. This isn't a last minute decision. He's been trained to go and win this, and I hope he does.
And
So
on that point is as well, if you look at you mentioned his natural progression. He's a point-to-point winner in Ireland. He's ended up finishing 5th in the Albert Bartlett. Everything immediately says he's going to be a 3-mile chaser. He was really, I thought he jumped really well at Newbury last time out. You don't get poor novice chase winners at Newbury. So I think you can go there with, I don't want to say optimism, but hope. And I think it should be a cracker race. But no, I'd be very excited to be in your shoes right now.
absolutely. Hopefully, it will kick the day off to an absolute flyer. And then shortly after that, we have the Christmas hurdle at Kempton, where it is the return of none other than, well, Gino. You've also got Golden Ace in here, though, and she isn't to be underestimated, as we've all repeatedly learned in recent weeks. We've also got Celtic Dino with an entry here, Rhubarb, Tripoli Flyer, and Give It To Me OJ, who won quite impressively at Cheltenham on his first race out this season, but didn't quite follow that up next time. Considering that anything could take this race other than Sir Gino?
Not for me, no. And again, to give a Paul Ulster shout, he does fancy Golden Ace. He said, at what point does she become not underappreciated but almost disrespected? She won I thought she did well at fighting 5th last time out. She beat Amsterdam pretty well in the end, but Constitution Hill was a faller. The New Lion was all over the shop and fell 2 out. The race did fall into a lap, a bit like the Champion Hurdle last year. It's okay to be lucky twice, that's fine. She was a good second behind Stateman at Leopardstown, but on official ratings, even with the £7 allowance, she's got, trying to do the maths, so she's still got £4 to final Sagina, who is unexposed, only had 5 career starts, phenomenal in all 5 career starts. He bolted up on his chase debut at the meeting 12 months ago. The only concern would be that the fact that he has been used as a super sub, right? If Constitution Hill hadn't been on the floor at Newcastle, he'd probably be running this. And you imagine Sagino would probably be in something like the Wayward Lad. Sorry, the Desert Orchid. So yeah, Sagino for me, but it wouldn't be one way you'd be chucking Grandma's Christmas money on.
A super sub, and obviously that Wayward Lad is where we saw him last year. So it has been a whole year since we've seen Sagino, and obviously no one gets them any better back from an injury than Nicky Henderson. And Sergino wouldn't be running here if he wasn't ready. But yeah, you do get the feeling that he's almost had his growth stunted a little bit by not going chasing, because he was impressive in that Wayward Lad. I just think that obviously you've also got the injury to Stateman this year, and obviously there you've got to think that therefore the owners would like to have a horse that can go in the Champion Hurdle. So it's kind of a double blow, isn't it, with Constitution Hill and Stateman? That means that it feels like ripe for the picking for Sagino to go and take that Champion Hurdle. But yeah,
it's also what he did a few years ago. If you remember, Bouvardet won 2 Champion Hurdles. He was lined up to win a 3rd, got injured. What's the name of the horse? This is going to really annoy me. And there was a super Espoir d'Allen, the Espoir d'Allen, the filly. She was going to win the mares race, diverted to the Champion. She was trained for the Champion instead. So Nicky Henderson, there's no better man, to be like she said, to get them ready and get them back after a break or get them retargeted. So shouldn't be an issue. But yeah, unbelievable talent for 7 Barrows to unleash over Christmas, and hopefully we get to see him put his best foot forward.
Absolutely. I think if having a bet in this, I'd probably look at a distance bet, or just that straight forecast with Golden Ace, because I don't think you can write her off. I think it's likely that she will still be there. She has shown us that she can be there in the finish now on a couple of occasions. It's not like she's come from necessarily miles and miles back. She's been there to pick the races up, so she's always around in the finish. So I think that a straight forecast or a distance bet on Sagino is probably the direction I would take this in. But yeah, look, I wouldn't be mad if Jeremy Scott won it again, because just fair play to him. She's the reigning champion hurdler. Get her in these races. Well done to the team. After that, though, it is time for the big one, and I'm so excited for this race, Jack. I don't know about you, but I think this is probably one of the best looking King George's in a little while. It's really seemed to attracted the best chasers around. And at the top of the market, we have Factor File. Also with an entry in here, you have Gaelic Warrior, Django Bay, after that really impressive performance last time out. The Jukebox Man for Harry Redknapp. Last year's winner, Banbridge. You've also got Jello, who's done absolutely nothing wrong this season so far. Ile Francais having another pitch at this, and then at the biggest price of 150 to 1, the Tristan Davises have got Master Chewy in here. What do you make of this one? I've got a couple of horses that I kind of fancy for this, but what about you?
I mean, the obvious starting point is Gaelic Warrior, who I would be keen to take on. I know he's been a bit of a market mover. He's a Paul Ulster selection as well, but there are horses you kind of warm to, and the horses you almost you either you get wrong or you don't see them in the light everyone else is, and it's almost like it becomes like a pantomime villain. Like Gaelic Warrior, I remember him being so hyped up. His novice hurdle career, right? He came to Cheltenham. He was beaten in the Ballymore. He finished second by in Perry Pass. Fair enough. And he went to Punchestown for 1 odds on. He came here last year, and I remember thinking I'd seen him unseated in that 2-runner race. I cannot have him for the Arco, and he won by half the track. Like, so in my head, then I've got to keep taking him on. He's beaten a couple of novice chasers, but then was fantastic at Aintree when beating Grey Dawning. That form was franked with him winning the Betfair Chase a few weeks ago, and then he was a winner on his reappearance in the was it the John Durkin Punchestown. So he comes here with pretty much everything in his favour. He's the highest rated in the field. It's rated 174, which is what you'd probably need to be a King George winner. But like I said, for some reason, I've just never warmed to the horse. I don't like hype horses. I always try to take Mullins horses as well, but I get why he's favourite, but it doesn't. It's one of those. For me, I have to feel it. I mentioned say Kauto Star. He made me feel. Denman made me feel. Q Card made me feel. It doesn't make me feel Gaelic Warrior. I don't know about you, but I want to take him on.
I'm actually exactly the same. I've been burned a few times by not feeling Gaelic Warrior, because obviously he's won his last 3 starts. So you can't
It
knock
doesn't
the
make any
form.
logical sense, yeah.
Like
But
you say, you can't knock the form. It just is not one of those horses that you've warmed to, that you perhaps take into your hearts in that same way. But there's a couple for me that have. So I do really like Banbridge. I think he's such a confusing horse. Which is his distance, which is his ground. It always seems to be changing. And, it was probably a little bit out of the blue, wasn't it, when he flew home and picked up Hewick in the King George last year. And, there's no one better in a flying finish than Sean Bowen. And I just think that partnership is very exciting. I think he's a really nice price. I'm hoping the price doesn't indicate that, he's potentially going to be withdrawn on the ground or anything like that, because I know they are a little bit cautious with him when it comes to the go-in. They do like to make sure that there is a little bit of cut in it. I don't think he wants it too firm. But I'm hoping that, with just good racing grounds, that they should be fine and he'll take his place. And the other one in there as well, I think, is a nice price for a trainer who's in form. And I feel like you can't not love him, but it's the Jukebox Man. Yeah. And it's just the excitement around the Jukebox Man with Harry Redknapp, and the fact that he really sticks with his jockey, Ben Jones, and obviously his trainer with Ben Paulin. And they're all so excited when they speak about this horse on the TV. Even in their last race, I think it was at Haydock, wasn't it? They really weren't expecting to win. They weren't sort of bold, like coming in, but they were coming in and they were saying like, our target is the King George. Our target is the King George. That's all they kept saying. So the fact that Paydot wasn't the target and he still won as well as he did, and this is the target, you've got to think that he's going to be perfectly tuned up for this. So Ben Paul is currently operating at almost a 30% strike rate. That's a figure that I can't ignore, and I just think he's got a really, really good chance here.
And on that point, he beat a horse called Iroku, who'd been very well hyped for the JP McManus, the boys in the green and gold. He won really well last week at Ascot, even a penalty that day as well, conceding £3 to the younger horse. So the Jukebox Man, he won the Feltham 12 months ago, so the Kauto Stein obviously 12 months ago. It's his natural progression to then go for the big one. Like I said, he's won his prep, beat a horse that's Frank the Thompson's. I think he's a very good price around 6-1. Factor 5 is a horse I can never seemingly get right, a bit like Gaelic Warrior. I thought he'd win the John Durkin on his reappearance. I think it was a good opening salvo. So they were 29 marks. They were 30 lengths clear of the field. I'd expect Factor 5 to reverse the one on Gaelic Warrior. But to your point about Banbridge probably not getting his credit last year, I like the form from last year, especially. I think it's going to be good ground at Kempton. It was good ground 12 months ago. If you look at the winning time, it was one of the fastest King George's in memory. I think Thistlecrack has the track record. But yeah, I think the two against the field for me would probably be Banbridge in a first-time Bizer. He's had a run under his belt. And Iles Francais, I can't get out of my head how well the French horse jumped around here the last 2 years. I was all over him for the Kauto Star Navis when he won under James Reevely 2 years ago. I thought he was so unlucky. I still have watched the race. I have no idea how he gets picked off by Banbridge in the straight last year. And I was on him quite big, so it was very frustrating. But like I said, Banbridge is one of those horses that can put in a 170, 174 performance if you get him on a going day. I like Corsom around Kempton. It's a really tight, sharp track. If you can win around here, you're going to come back and win again. So for me, I'll stick with you, Izzy. I think Banbridge and Iles Francais, both around the 16-1 mark, too big.
Yeah, I think especially with Mullins' form at the moment, we could get a little bit of a bigger price winner here. And I'll be really interested to see what actually happens to the markets on the day, because it's quite a big betting race for the public. Most people I know, you get those classic texts this time of year, but also in April. Who are you backing for the National? I know you tend to get a few texts on Boxing Day, like who are you backing in the King George? Because people are home and they're in front of their tellies and they're tuning in. So I just hope that it all goes well and we get a really good show. But outside of Kempton, we have got quite a nice race in a novices chase at Leopardstown as well on Boxing Day that involves the really informed Romeo Coolio. You've also got Salvatore Mundi in here, who was a very surprising loser last time out. You've also got July Flower, who's won both their races this season and quite impressively at Cheltenham. You've also got Irish Panther in here, Westport Cove, Nürburgring, Break My Soul, He's Gorgeous, and Shraheen. Do you think this is a own goal essentially for Romeo Coolio? He's short enough in the market. I personally can't be having Salvatore Mundi.
Yeah, I didn't like the way Salvatore Mundi jumped. He was beaten at 1-7 on debut in the beginner's chase last month at Thurles. Interestingly enough, Salvatore Mundi was also second and beaten on his racecourse debut by a certain horse called Sagino over at Oitoy in April 2023. But he's another one. Another one of these high pauses. I really fancied Romeo Coolio to beat him at Aintree when Salvatore Mundi got a really good ride by Paul Townend and picked off. Romeo Coolio was kind of left to do a lot of his donkey work and do his own running. So I really like the way he's made the transition to fences. I thought he jumped really, really well at Fairy House in the Dreammore last time. I know he was a short price favourite and he basically did what he should have done. But no, I really like Romeo Coolio. I think he's going to be probably even better over this trip. 2 miles on a furlong. They'll go really hard up front, so you need to stay a bit further. But yeah, Romeo Coolio for me, I'd be astounded if this was beat. 4-5 would probably be the banker for me on Boxing Day and the banker for plenty others.
Yeah, I think that's perhaps quite a nice double, the muggy double. Romeo Coolio and Sagino. Probably
like that.
both to win, to be honest with you. Like you say, I think Romeo Coolio's just taken to his task with fences much better than Salvatore Mundi. And although I know Salvatore Mundi had beaten Romeo Coolio over hurdles, I don't think it's the same story over these obstacles. And I can't see a reason why Salvatore Mundi's going to reverse that form. Also, going back to that trainer form, Gordon Elliott's having plenty of winners at the moment. Absolutely no concerns there. And I think, that'll be a really, really good opportunity for him to take advantage of that field there. Another one who's been running well is July Flower. But just a few concerns that Henry de Bromhead's not having the most winners at the moment either. But yeah, can't knock July Flower's form so far this year. Has run. She's won really, really nicely. She was at Cheltenham for the November meeting, and she won beautifully there that day. And she beat a reasonable field with Be Aware and Burdett Road, and those horses aren't mugs. But so I'd be interested. I think that July Flower might finish a little bit closer to Romeo Coolio than Salvatore Mundi does. So yes, right. That's it for Boxing Day, but then we're going to move on. We're going to take a little look at the cards on Saturday because we do have the big festive feature at Chepstow, which is the Welsh Grand National. Now, I absolutely love this race. I'm really excited for this one. I know just off air before we started recording, Jack, we've got a few questions about what's going on with the market here. But at the top, we have Jubilee Express from Sam Thomas. You've also got Gitmaker in there for Gavin Sheehan and Jamie Snowden. Rock My Way for Joe Tizard. You've got Mr. Van Gogh, the staying superstar, in there for Sarah Bradstock. You've got Haiti Couleur in there as well for Rebecca Curtis. A really nice entry for the Richard Johnson Racing Partnership with O'Connell. You've also got Collector's Item, Intense Raffles, Dom of Mary, Deafening Silence, and I'll say bigger the rest because you've still got the likes of Nasalam in there, Tanganyika. But are there any bigger price that take your fancy, or do you like ones that are perhaps a little bit shorter in the market?
You don't really get shocks in this race anymore, do you? No, I'm thinking you've got to go back to when it was proper soft ground. But even then, when you know it's going to be heavy, you almost get the really soft ground splashes. I was adamant TV3 couldn't be beaten this race a few years ago. I think it was Monbeg Dude under Paul Carberry. Like I could not have this horse beat. And I think AP McCoy, Rebecca Curtis. Same when they finished second, and did they finish second in the national? I think maybe third the year after. But Carberry came from the clouds to win. I think Michael Scudamore trained it. So it's always been a race that I've always been probably more crossbar than top corner. But I'll let you lead the way because I'm sure there's one in particular you fancy here, is it?
Oh, there is. And just to touch on some previous winners of this race, I think it's been such an interesting indicator over the years, hasn't it? You've had horses that have gone on to win, the Chepstow Aintree double and do both nationals, like Bindery and Silver Birch. And you've also had horses that have gone on to win the Gold Cup, whether Borough Hill Lad did it in the same season, but quite a few of them have done it kind of 2 years later. Yeah, so
Synchronized, yeah.
Synchronized did it. He won this in 2010, then won the Gold Cup in 2012. And then you also had like the likes of Native River, who you mentioned earlier, won this in 2016 and then won the Gold Cup in 2018. So it looks here like you could be in 2 years' time potentially seeing a Gold Cup winner. And there's no one I'd love more to do that than Mr. Van Gogh. I've got to be honest. I think he's an absolute staying. Well, I said it at the top, saying he's a staying superstar. He just does not stop. He plows on. I cannot believe he got beat last time out. Just bless his heart. Top weight. What a performance. Great for me to know that he really took to those national fences, because obviously that was his first time over then. I've been touting him for the Grand National for absolutely without knowing whether he'd like the course or not at all. So I was really, really pleased with his performance at Aintree last time. I know he just couldn't quite get to Twig, which was a fantastic performance by Twig. And I know you actually had Twig as well. So I know he has your heart there for that performance. But Mr. Van Gogh was just so brave and so strong. And I just think, as long as it isn't too soon between drinks for him, because obviously these are marathon distances that these horses are running at, I think he's a fantastic price at 8-1. I really, really do. And yeah, I really can't look elsewhere. But I was very impressed with the performance of O'Connell last time. And I know he's one that you perhaps quite like the look of. So I'll let you take that one away.
Yeah, to your point about Mr. Van Gogh, I mean, I think the time for Twig was last time out at Kempton. I think Mr. Van Gogh has bigger fish to fry. It's, the Welsh National being an early closer, he gets in without being unpenalised for that. If he'd have won that race, he'd have gone up £4 in the handicap. He's due to go up £3 anyway. So he's basically on those terms. He's actually saved himself. So it probably works. If you do fancy Mr. Van Gogh, and he has been back to the last week or so, he's currently 8-1 best price. I do think you want a bit more juice in the ground, so I'm sure Izzy will be on weather watch accordingly, doing a weather dance over South Wales. I can see why. I can see why Jubilee Express is favourite. Di Walters, the owner of Foss Lass, and very proud man from South Wales. He wants to win the Welsh National, so this has probably been the plan for a while. He gets in under a penalty after winning the Welsh National trial at Chepstow, but he just doesn't strike me as that type of horse. He was beaten here 12 months ago of 126. He went off 6-1 joint favourite. He's now running off 130. Just he doesn't have the type of profile for me, whereas O'Connell really does. He showed plenty to win at Sandown over the the London National. It's a 3.5 miles. Gavin Sheehan gave him a really good ride. I'd have liked Gavin Sheehan to be on again. He's riding out of his shin at the minute, out of his skin. Sorry, he takes the ride on Gitmaker instead for Jamie Snowden. But yeah, the profile for me it's everything for O'Connell. He's progressive. I said he'd be. What did he win over? He won over 3.5 miles. He previously won at Carlisle in the Cumberland Handicap Chase. 132, 132, gets in under a penalty. He's officially well in the weights. And O'Connell for me around the 9-1 mark. He would probably want a bit more juice on the ground as well, as would most of the field, to be honest. But yeah, I'm with you. Mr. Van Gogh, I think, has got a great chance. And O'Connell, I think we'll both be getting our brollies out hopefully on Saturday.
Well, unfortunately, the weather forecast doesn't particularly show much rain, so we might have to do more than a brolly, just maybe, like you say, a rain dance, or just hoping and praying that they water ever so slightly. But we've also had in this that we will just make a mention for. I'm not sure that we'll explain it as well as Paul, but he does fancy intense raffles here, and he does like one at a bigger price. I mean, his price has absolutely tumbled. You could have got 25-1 on him, and he's come into 14-1. He is off of top weight. He is there for those double green, Simon Munir and Isaac Swade. And I think obviously he's probably got a very good chance in this as well. He's just got to overcome that top weight, but it's got it for a reason because he's a bit of a classy horse. So we'll see how his class can maybe shine through in this race. After that, though, we are flicking our attentions back over to Kempton with more races named after really racing superstars. And we're going to take a look at that Desert Orchid Handicap Chase. It's run over 2 mile. Quite a nice little race, actually. There's 7 runners, but quite interesting. At the top of the market, a trainer and jockey duo that we haven't touched upon yet in the preview, and that is Fittle Ask for Harry and Dan Skelton. You've then got Ryan's Rocket for the Fergal O'Brien and Johnny Burke duo. You've got Saint Segal in here off of top weight. You've got Gabriel's Getaway, Sam Brew, Boot Hill, and Calgary Tiger bringing up the field at a whopping 150-1. Out of the 7, do you think that it's sort of home and hose with Thistle Ask? I mean, the market seems to have it between sort of maybe the first 4, and then it sort of gets a lot bigger there for Sam Brew.
I thought so. That's very hard to say that word. Imagine having a lisp. Thistle Ask. He was £9 up the handicap when he won the Horden Gold Cup at Exeter. But Kayleigh de Burley was atrocious that day. Didn't carry a leg. He got a great ride by Harry Skelton, who clearly knew he had the fittest and most informed horse in the race. He'll stay further, so he pinged him out in front and he rode him to sleep. Saint Segal was the big eye catcher there, who finished second, chased him home. But you mentioned there would be other races for him. I'm trying to put it politely, not get sued. He's still gone up in the weights because obviously he won last time out at Kelso on soft ground of 100 mark of 148. But the one for me is Boot Hill, who has kind of been having to run. He's been in that in between handicap where he'd be carrying top weight in handicaps, or he'd be running at big prices in grade one. So he finished 11 lengths behind John Bonn in the Clarence House Chase, but he has come back down to a mark of 149. Last time he was down to that mark, he won a really nice handicap at Ascot, and then followed up with a mark of 155 at the same track a few weeks ago. So he's flitted down the weights. He was as high as 160 when chasing down John Bonn around 30 months ago. He's come down a stone for me. And Harry Fry's had a bit of a quiet time of it. I think they're in a bit of a transition period, should we say, getting a lot of, say, holder horses that he had when first getting the yard. But Bootail for me, anything around the 3-4 to 1 mark, I'll be all over on Saturday.
Well, the one I'm quite interested in is Saint Segal, and just trying to work out whether or not I think he can turn the tables against Thistleask, because obviously he was beaten by Thistleask in November at Exeter, but then he's come back out next time at Kelso and won. And Jane Williams as a trainer is on a really good strike rate at the minute. She doesn't have the most runners, but the ones she does have been quite well placed to go on and win their races. So it's just whether he can turn the tables, but I'm not so sure. I think this is likely sort of Thistleask's for the taking, and he's a worthy favourite. But I don't have a particularly strong opinion on the race, if I'm honest. But certainly nice to see that on, the biggest racing days of the year. It's interesting because obviously we spoke about the races earlier, like the King George, and those winners of the King George, Kauto Star with his 5, Desert Orchids won his 4. They've ended up with races named after themselves on that card, which is incredible to see. And obviously with some question marks around the future of Kempton at the minute, it starts to make you feel a bit sad that that could be a thing of the past. So fingers crossed it's not. But on Saturday, across the pond, we go back to Leopardstown because it's all action everywhere. And we have to see whether Marsborough can actually jump and continue to try and try his hand at chasing. He's got to contend against Marine National, Founder 50, Only by Night, Solness, the 10-year-old Captain Guinness, and Herrick du Sol as well. Really, really interesting kind of field this, because obviously with Marlborough you have got Mark Walsh on board, you've got Paul Townend riding the second string for JP McManus, he's riding Herrick du Sol. But is this just, Marine National's our champion chase winner, so is Marine National just too big of a price here, or do you think that they can sort the jumping out for Marlborough?
I mean, if I knew that answer, I'd be going down the bookies and getting the lot on now. It's one of those. I'm not very. I wouldn't say a spiritual person, but seemed to be something in the air the way he won at Kempton. When he won at Cheltenham, when he won the champion chase last year, obviously after what happened with Mikey, and but he did show it was no fluke when he followed up at Punchestown. Just 6 weeks later. I do think he's the best horse in the race. Whether or not he may need the run, I'm not so sure. He was beaten first time out last year when beaten at Naas. Previously, he had a pretty good record. If going to my head, I've got to back one. I will be back in Marine National around 74. The one I probably like at bigger prices is Founder 50, who I didn't think it was any fluke the way he beat Margeborough at Cork in the Hilly Way chase. It's generally been a good prep for this and good prep for further grade one honours further on as well. But yeah, I was all over him for the Arca last year, and then the champion chase the year after. That form with Gaelic Warrior is pretty strong. He's if you look at him over fences in open company, he's won 5 of his 8 career starts. He's probably just not very sexy enough compared to the likes of Marshborough and Marine National. But yeah, Founder 50 for me around the 32 mark. I'll be backing him each way all day long.
I know, it's so interesting, isn't it? Because with Margeborough, he's been a real horse to follow for me, and it's been interesting to hear the way Willie Mullins has sort of said that he doesn't sort of really appear to be enjoying chasing. And obviously with Ballyburn, though, they've kind of put a stop to that and they've reverted back to hurdles. And you do wonder whether they will do the same eventually for Margeborough if he really doesn't start to sort his jumping out, because against Founder 50, it was his jumping that let him down. And you've got to think that if he's got a bit of an engine under there, so if he can sort his jumping out, he could easily win this. I just think jumping the way he does against a horse like Marine National, who's jumps so much better than Marchborough. Like, it's not even a contest, is it? I think that, yeah, Marlborough could be dodgy at the price. And I think you're right that actually Founder 50 could be the one that's a little bit of a danger to Marine National, and actually quite a nice price. So it's almost like blasphemy for me, because I have like a really unhealthy level of loyalty towards Marlborough. But I am, even as a fan of Marlborough, getting very, very concerned that he just's not picking his feet up.
And that's the thing, watching
It's
him.
going to lose him the race.
Yeah, the way they go in these grade ones, especially at Leopardstown over Christmas, they got such a pace. If you make one mistake, you're looking at you're looking at £7 to £10 in terms of an error. You have to be foot perfect because they're such strong fields, and it's such difficult fences at Leopardstown. So yeah, if you're watching Marchborough, you're going to be sat there basically cleansing for 4 minutes. So I'd rather take the easier option of going the horse that actually is a pretty sound jumper in Founder 50, and hopefully find a few 50s back in him.
Yes, maybe that's what we can actually do, is find a 50 and get a few winners. But that being said, obviously I mentioned earlier about Ballyburn. The Leopardstown Christmas Festival is just the gift that keeps on giving, really, because we then roll into Sunday, the 28th of December, where we've got a couple of really good races on the cards. Obviously, we do not have final declarations for these next few races, so sort of take it with a pinch of salt, but we're hoping that most of them are going to run. And we're going to kick things off with the Christmas hurdle. As I mentioned, Ballyburn back hurdling, and he is at the top of the market there. You've then got staying hurdler Te next in the market. You've got the Yellow Clay, the winner, twice winner of this race, and actually regained the race last year, was Home by the Lee. You've then got the old boy Bob Ollinger, who springs a few surprises now and again in the race. You've also got an entry still for Mystical Power, Honesty Policy, Rocky's Diamond, Jatara, and Bally Adam for the Cheveley Park team. Do you think that this is a win for Ballyburn? I mean, I just think that T Hooper was incredibly lucky to win last time, and I cannot imagine that Paul Townend is going to let that happen again on Ballyburn.
Yeah, I think that the winning distance was officially a Nostra, wasn't it? In the Hatton's race. And
the picture, to me, I still, going back to the picture, when I look at it, Ballyburn won it. I can't work out how Ballyburn didn't win that race.
And Ballyburn's 2 lengths clear, about 10 yards after the line. It's one of those where Paul would probably want to have the do-over, but that's racing. It's interesting because Ballyburn, when he won did he win the? In my head, it's always like the Ballymore, the 2-5 novice at Cheltenham. You think when he won by 13 lengths, this is an absolute racing superstar. Straight over fences, he could have stayed over hurdles, but straight over fences, and then just jumped terribly, didn't he? Let's be honest, call it a spade. In last year at Cheltenham, so the fact that he's gone back over hurdles, I think that's probably a wise move by Willie Mullins. No issues, have you, over 3 miles? He stays. I think he's a point-to-point winner as well. Yeah, I think he was. It's difficult, right? You can't hold a horse lucky, but if you've got to ask me, who do you think should be favourite, Ballyburn or Teahupoo to reverse the form? It's Ballyburn. Interesting, we mentioned off air, and I'll let you talk about him. In the same colours of Teahupoo, a horse that is probably somewhat forgotten is Bob Ollinger, who he won the Stayers Hurdle, just 7 months ago. Got a really good ride by Rachel Blackmore. It was her swan song at Cheltenham, but got a good record. Fresh, goes well around here. He's still a 10-year-old. The only kind of doubt, and you've mentioned it already, would be the stable form of Henry de Bromhead. He's only had 1 winner from his last 29 runners. But if that yard seems to get firing over Christmas, Bob Ollinger 10-1, surely a big price.
I can't be having Bob Ollinger run at 10-1
and
not have a couple of pounds on, because he does just bring a surprise. And although, yes, trainer form can be a concern, and I do like to track it and I do like to follow it, because I do think that there's something to those figures. Really good horses in a stable will still win despite stable form. And I do think that Bob Ollinger's got a bit of a task here. And I think this is quite a hotly contested race, actually, with the likes of, Home by the Lee in the race as well. but I do just think that he is just a stayer. Like he keeps staying on
Yeah.
all the time. I still can't believe that race that he lost in April at Aintree, where he was beaten by Impero Pass, and the three of them all came together at the finish. Do you remember that? And it
I
actually, in
backed
the
him.
end,
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. Yeah.
the winning distance was that Bob Ollinger had lost by a nose. So I really wasn't surprised to see him go in and win that 3 mile stayers hurdle at Cheltenham. I think that, he does stay. And I think he probably stays better than Tahupu, to be honest with you. The unknown is whether he's going to stay better than Ballyburn, because the way Ballyburn finished that 2 mile 4 race just looked as if, he could have kept going. And like you said, he was well in front past the post as well. So just
The only concern about Ballyburn is he does get a bit keen. So if he's buzzy over 3 miles, he's going to use up a lot of petrol,
mm,
which is a little bit what happened at Cheltenham in the spring. But like I said, if Paul Townend can settle him early, I think you'll know he's fit, because providing he can get anywhere near the last in contention, he's going to rally up the hill. So yeah, Teopu,
Bob
Teopu
Ollinger needs to stalk.
exactly. Yeah, Teopu was probably going to be there, kind of there. I don't say there to be shot at. He won the race. He's won the race before. You know what he is now. He's now an 8-year-old, 9 in the spring. But you'd say Bob Ollinger's probably overpriced, and Burn's horse has got significantly more improvement to come potentially.
Absolutely. And we're sticking on that Sunday card. We're going to take a little look at the Savills Chase, where we have the return of Galopin Des Champs, but he's got to get the win against I Know the Way You're Thinking, Fast or Slow. Gaelic Warrior has still got an entry here, but obviously very unlikely to go. You've also got Champ Kylie with an entry, Factifile again with an entry, but unlikely to go. Lecky Watson with an entry, Jerry Colombi with an entry, but looks set to go to the New Year's meeting. You've also got Grange Clear West in here, Affordable Fury and Hartwood. You've also got I Am Maximus with an entry, Monty Star, Croke Park and Stella Story. So this field does look like it's going to cut up, Jack, but if we maybe focus on the ones that we think are definitely going to go here, and for certain it's going to be Galopin Des Champs. Obviously, he's won this race the last 2 years in a row. Do you think he can equal Beef or Salmon's record and make it 3?
I do think he can. Whether he will or not, I'm not sure. I think this race is just potentially rife for an upset. I know you the way the thinking is. Gold Cup winner, I thought he was very disappointing first time out, and again the trainer said he probably wasn't fit enough and he probably wasn't fit. Like 2.5 miles was just a starting point in the John Durkin, but really disappointed. I didn't fancy him all in the Gold Cup. Galopin Des Champs, he's still only a 9-year-old. He seems to have been around forever. I remember the race. Actually, weirdly enough, I remember the race where he fell when Clay were leaving Bob Ollinger in charge, and feels like a lifetime ago. It was only 3.5 years ago. Galopin Des Champs. This could be seen as one of the biggest prices of all time, 11-4. But I think there could be a big boil over here. I think there's holes and plenty there. The one I like at a huge price is Jerry Colomb, who's got a fantastic record, fresh. If you look at his record after a break of say 200 days or more, he's won I think 3 of those 4 starts. The other one he didn't was when he was clearly wrong in the in my head. It's the Jane wine, the race at Down Royal last November. He led early and just faded. He was beaten by about 20 lengths. He just wasn't right that day. But Jerry Colomb was also, he's been competitive in Gold Cups. He was second behind Galopin Des Champs here back in 2023. 3 miles, first time out. That's probably his optimal conditions. And Jerry Colomb at 33-1 with Bet365. I'll be just hoping we get 8 runners and hoping he runs into a place. But yeah, fascinating race. But I think all of us secretly will be cheering on Galopin Des Champs just for the call by Jerry Hannon approaching the last. It's Galopin Des Champs.
I can hear it now. I feel it. The only thing about Jerry Colombi is they are looking that potentially he's going to go to Tremor, I think, for that New Year's Day.
Oh, there you go.
meeting.
I'll take my chance. I'll take my chance.
I think you've got to just be mindful you're taking your chance a little bit. He's actually got 4 or 5 entries over the new year. So it might be that they're kind of ground watching and potentially as well just watching what happens with this race in terms of how it does cut up before they maybe make their final decision. But I think that Galloping de Champs is a beautiful price. I know that people talk about how Gold Cups can break horses, and you've kind of got the two in here with, I know the way you're thinking in Galloping de Champs, obviously the first and second in the Cheltenham Gold Cup from last year. But Galloping de Champs, come out and won at Punchestown, so he was clearly none the worse. I think he was maybe just on not a particularly a going day at Cheltenham in that Gold Cup. I think I know the way you're thinking. I wasn't happy with his first run back, and you've got to ask that question: how much has the Gold Cup taken out of him in for his future racing? But I'm certain that Galloping can come back. It's whether he usually has a prep race before he runs in this, so it's just whether he could have done with that prep race before coming straight here. But he's coming straight here, obviously after 42 days off the track. But horses for courses, I think he's the GDC. I think he's a beautiful price, and I will be sticking with him.
Another one is you mentioned that they've horses with multiple entries. It will depend on who Connections want to run, because they've also got a horse called Heartwood in here, who was second behind Factor File in the Ryanair back in the spring. That's top level form. Again, he was rated 159 going into the race. He beat Monbet Park on his seasonal reappearance in a Grade 3 chase at Punchestown. He was another one that was just kind of off his feet. He actually finished 20 lengths clear of I Know the Way You're Thinking in the John Durkin, and yet he's obviously much bigger price. But Heartwood has always been seen as a bit of a 3-miler by Henry de Bromhead. He finished 5 lengths behind the subsequent Gold Cup hero in the Grade 1 chase at Aintree the spring before. So whoever runs from Heartwood or Jerry Colomb, I'll be backing in this race. But yeah, I think Heart says Galloping de Champs, Head says keep it in your trousers.
It's certainly interesting, isn't it? Rob Corr seem to have all the right problems. Do they run Jerry
It's a nice
Colomb
problem
or
to have, yeah.
Heartwood? And they've got the same with Tahupu and Bob Ollinger in the race that we previewed earlier. So yes, Rob Corr, happy Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
But our final race, we can nearly take a breath, Jack, but our final race we're going to take a look at is actually on Monday. So we obviously definitely don't have decorations for this one, but it's worth talking about either way, because the potential for this field to line up against one another is very exciting. And that is the December hurdle at Leopardstown on Monday. The top of the market, we have Lossiemouth. And with a late entry, we have Brighter Days Ahead. You've also got in here Amsterdam, Woodo, Irancy, El Fabiolo, who obviously we haven't seen for a little while since falling last time out. We've also got Cashdale Lad, Hello Neighbour, and Winter Fog with an entry here. I mean, just the first few in the market, if they all turn up, this could be very, very exciting. I love Lossiemouth. I'm a big fan of Lossiemouth, but obviously Brighter Days Ahead won this race last year. Do you think it's just between those two, or do you think someone like Woodo could perhaps bring a surprise?
Yeah, it's almost like after, I won't say after the Lord Mayor show, but you're still gorging on racing by Monday. It's also the Grade 1 shallow hurdle at Newbury on the same day where No Drama Descend, who's been compared by trainer Paul Nichols as potentially his next Denman, runs and should be claiming Grade 1 honours. So yeah, fantastic day of racing. I mentioned earlier about Gaelic Warrior. Lossiemouth has always been one of those horses where I keep trying to get beat, and mainly unsuccessfully. I was she a bit unlucky when she fell here behind Stateman 12 months ago. Potentially, she just around this time. I don't know whether it's horses about this time last year, because if you remember, she got beat by Constitution Hill at Kempton, the Christmas hurdle, where she was so buzzy. I don't think 2 miles. I think she naturally wants 2.5, but she gets 2. The horse for me I like in this race would be, I can't pronounce the name, Woodhoo for trainer Gordon Elliott, who she won at Cheltenham 12 months ago and then ended up winning the Martin Pipe. I know plenty were on that day. She ran Lossiemouth really close at Aintree. She battled really well. She's only beaten a few lengths, and for a young inexperienced horse, she'd have probably learned a lot. She got a really good ride. Jockey Danny Gillen didn't panic when they've gone off like the clappers in that Grade 2 Ascot hurdle a few weeks ago. He ended up picking them off in the closing stages, winning quite closely in the end. You imagine there'll be a strong pace in here again, and for me, I'm going to go with the improver. How do you pronounce this horse? Is it?
I say Woodoo.
Woodoo for me at the price of 9-2. I do think it's between the 3 fillies. I think if you're trying to give these horses £7 good luck to you, and it's good to see the ladies struck their stuff against the boys. But
Mm.
fascinating race. I can't wait for it. But Lossiemouth, brighter days ahead. I think this will be the first of multiple clashes this season. Touchwood.
I think it's all very exciting, actually. I mean, really, I think, very interesting to see El Fabiolo going back over hurdles. Obviously,
Mm.
had a bit of a bad time of things over chases. Again, he's another that's reverted back. Be interesting to see if he does go here. Like you say, I think they've got a lot of work to do, giving the weight to the girls. They are so exciting. They're going to go off like the clappers. That is my only concern, is that obviously when Lossiemouth did fall here last time against State Man, it just seemed like she almost fell because they were going so quickly, and she was actually under a little bit of pressure to kind of keep up with State Man at that time. Um, so that does worry me, because I do think Widow and Brighter Days Ahead are going to push her, and I wouldn't want to see that kind of same fate. But I think if she stands up, I think she'll beat the other two girls. But I think it will be a really interesting finish. I'd love to try and like pick the tricast of the order that I think they're going to finish in. Um, my head is telling me that I think it might be Brighter Days Ahead, Lossiemouth, Widow, but there we are. We'll have to see. But hopefully, hopefully in our marathon of festive racing, we have found you there a few winners. Obviously, we do wish you and your families a very Merry Christmas, and we will be back to take a look ahead to that New Year's Day card at Cheltenham.